In a world that is robbing dudes of their dudeness, three normal, everyday, middle-aged dudes are taking a stand for dudes everywhere. Join us as we talk about life as a dude in today's world.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to the Dudefinity podcast, the only podcast dedicated to all things dude. My name is Sterling, and joining me as always, a man who said the most exciting thing about LeBron James joining the 76ers was that he would get to see just how big that banana boat is.
Give a I don't care. I hope the boat sinks.
No, man.
only in like a foot of water. But I mean, I want that 76ers boat to go down, bro. Like,
all right.
so we're jumping right in.
Let's dive right in.
First and foremost, before we get going, I want to say something to everybody. Listen, guys, we put these episodes out every week on YouTube. So please, if you like our shorts, you see what we're doing, pop over there if you got a few minutes and just check us out. There's shorts on the YouTube channel too. We'll post the YouTube channel when we post the next short that we do, but just wanted to make sure that we push you guys over there because we do have a lot of interesting things that we talk about that take a little bit longer than the 30-second shorts that we keep giving you. So do us a favor. Go do all the things on YouTube and interact with us there, please. Anyway, go ahead, Star.
Hit the bell.
Yeah, knock someone out.
Y'all.
Doesn't matter.
Anyways.
So jumping right in, I see.
Let's dive right into this LeBron James to the 76ers thing. So when we previously talked about this, I believe, my take was I kind of wanted to see this happen. So I've got a question for you, my friend. Let's start off with something real controversial here.
I'm going to say something now, and then I want the viewers to chime in at the end of this segment, and I want them to tell me if their opinion is the same as mine. You're a secret LeBron fan. Now go.
I wouldn't say I'm a secret LeBron fan. I think it's interesting. So, okay, I've got two things to say. The first thing is, I think that what Adam Silver doesn't understand about sports is it's not your hometown team getting to the finals, winning a title. That's not what the homers, we're always going to watch the Celtics, right? We're always going to watch the Pat. We're always going to watch, you'll watch the Bruins. That's not really for us. Anyways, so
what do you mean for us? Please explain. Elaborate.
We're just gonna gloss over that.
No. We're not gonna gloss over that because I think there's some people that play hockey that might have something to say about that.
Listen, man, that's not the point. The point is
that's not for us.
The point is that we're already invested, right? But the casual fan wants a story, right?
They want the super team, dude.
They want the interesting story. They want the storyline because that's what makes sports fun is the storyline.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, one of the biggest finals that was watched was the last year in Miami with those boys versus the Spurs because nobody thought an old Tim Duncan with, at that point, a relatively unheard of Kawhi Leonard.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, truthfully, he really hadn't been the Kawhi that he turned into. We saw him become that in that finals.
Sometimes you watch just to watch somebody lose.
It's like David versus Goliath. Like, if my team's not in it, I want David to win every time.
Yeah, because we like stories. Like, that's what we were doing around
but you also
campfires 1,000, 2,000 years ago. Telling stories.
We love stories, but let's not be mistaken, dude. And I just want to point this out because it's one of the things that drives me nuts about LeBron, even with Bronny, and we can debate this another time. But you cannot manufacture great sports moments. You cannot manufacture them.
I would agree with that.
You can't. And LeBron has spent his career trying to manufacture great sports moments. And so for me, that's the thing that drives me nuts. Rather than just play the game and be great, he tries to manufacture it, which has cost him coaches and everything else. But anyway, keep going.
But so that being said, the fact that really what sports fans like is the story, right? I think
soap operas for men.
Well, I mean,
sports is for everybody, but it's a soap opera.
Yeah, kind of sometimes. But I think I had said that I really wanted to see LeBron on this 76ers team. And my reasoning was I thought it would be a great story. Cleveland, yeah, he's going back to where he's been. Miami, same deal. Like safe, those are safe choices. Uh, the Golden State Warriors, that would have been an interesting story. But LeBron to a 76ers team that just got Jaylen Brown, and they're rivals with the Celtics, and will Embiid stay healthy? It's a great story. And so here's the part that I think could make this story really interesting.
All this hype is for a guy that's our age. I just want to point that out.
Yeah, well, good on him. He makes us.
I know, dude. I mean, if you and I use the same, steroids that he used, recovery steroids, we'd be all right too. But anyway, go ahead.
All right. So here's the question I have for you. So LeBron is greatest scorer, at least in terms of numbers of all time, not per game. He's taken a long time to get there, but he has the most points. He's got a bunch
those
of
ghosts
MVPs.
that he's chasing required him to play that long.
He's got a few MVPs. He's got titles in 3 different places, 3 different teams.
Cool.
If the 76ers win a title, he'll be the only player to win a title on 4 different teams. Does that cause us to reevaluate the GOAT debate?
Hell no. No. Absolutely not. No way. Not even close. He manufactured his own stories. You know what would have been better is if LeBron stayed in Cleveland his whole career. That would have been something to talk about, and he won championships there. He keeps chasing legacy that's manufactured. He played the longest because he takes care of his body. He recovers well, right? Like, we know that. He's a phenomenal athlete. I'm not knocking him. But dude, you can't be the GOAT when you're not even the GOAT of your generation. The best player of his generation is not LeBron James. It's not. It's Steph Curry. Say what you will. Steph, the cook was in the kitchen, man, and Chef Curry was chefing him up. I mean, I'm not trying to this isn't a I hate LeBron thing. This is a LeBron didn't do enough winning when it mattered. He tucked his tail between his legs and ran constantly. And he had to leave LA, dude. LA wasn't going to get any big free agents because nobody wants to play with the guy because he wears their ass out. He's too much. Not even close. Nope. So, only thing him winning does is a couple of things. You ready for this? One, again, he's chasing ghosts. He can't solidify that he's the greatest player of all time. And even he knows that. Okay, there's no solidification of that. He knows it. But if he goes and wins on a 4th team, coincidentally, he gets his 5th championship. Well, guess what? Now, all of a sudden, he's like maybe 1B or 1C because he's got the same number of championships that Kobe had and the same number of championships that Duncan has. He is not the GOAT, bro. No. Absolutely not. Absolutely
let's understand, not. I'm not saying that he is the GOAT.
God, you're going LeBron on me, man.
No, I'm not saying that he is the GOAT. You and I both know I don't. You can look over my shoulder and tell who I think the GOAT is. I'm not saying that I think he's the GOAT, but he's never going to catch Jordan in terms of championships, right? He's not going to get 6. That's just not going to happen.
No, Jaylen Brown will be gone before they even have a chance to win a 6th one, even if they won the 5th.
Team, I've seen stranger, but okay. So he's never going to win 6. That's just not going to happen.
Right.
He's never going to go undefeated in the finals. That ship has sailed. He's not going to get as many MVPs. So he's got his longevity, the fact that he scored the most points, and he can do this one thing. He can say, I brought championship to every team I've ever played for. And I honestly, here's the thing. Honestly, I think he chose Philly because if he goes to Golden State, Steph is going to get a ton of credit for that win. If he goes to Miami, he's not going to win. If he goes to Cleveland and they win there, maybe it does something. But to go to this team and win a championship, he gets to restart that debate. Because I feel like the debate is pretty well over. I don't think anybody who knows the game thinks that LeBron is the GOAT. But I think if they win a title in this, mark my words, man. Prediction. If the 76ers go to the NBA Finals and they win, that GOAT debate is going to be restarted. I'm telling you right now.
Okay.
If there's one player in the league who knows how to market themselves, it's LeBron James. Again,
My
I'm
turn.
not saying
My
I think
turn.
he's the GOAT. I don't think he's
My
the GOAT, but I think that debate is going to get restarted.
My turn. So I'm going to start at the top. First thing, Philly was not LeBron's first choice. I refuse to believe it. We can argue it all day long. I do think he was going to Miami because there's one thing everybody knows about championships in the NBA and its current construct. You either have to have a top 5 player or a super team to win a championship. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. That's what it's been for 20 years now. Okay. Top 5 player or winning championships. When they got Giannis, if he is chasing championships, Miami was the spot. Pat Riley leaked that damn press conference. That got leaked. And because that got leaked, I think he said, hey, trust the process. I'm coming to Philly. Because, and I do think that some of it was I think that Miami was always it. I think that Jaylen Brown, I don't think Cleveland was ever in the mix. I really don't. He's already returned there. I think, he knows that he can't play with James Harden. With as much as James Harden needs the ball in his hand. He can't play with Donovan Mitchell, small guard. It's just not his thing. I don't think that Miami or that Cleveland was ever a true spot. It'll always be home, but it's not his home right now, right? I think Miami was a return because they got Giannis, dude. It's a top 5 player. And they had the money to go, to give LeBron a little bit more money, right? Then that got leaked, which took the decision out of LeBron and forced him to have to make that decision faster. Okay? I genuinely believe that once that happened, with us trading Jaylen Brown, we kind of helped push LeBron to Philly
100%.
because of that. But don't be mistaken, man. I think that this was Miami or bust. I don't even think it was Golden State. And here's why I don't think it was Golden State.
Okay.
He's going to be in a situation not competing for a title. So you have LeBron. There's no Anthony Davis coming through like they wanted. Jimmy Butler might not even play next year. The team owes a $300 million luxury tax, repeated tax offender, and Steph's 38. They were never going to compete. I think we're more close to seeing Steph leave the Warriors than we've ever been right now.
I would agree with that. Well, so here's what I'll say about the Miami thing. I think the issue with Miami and LeBron, for all of his prima donna-ness, has a high.
He would have been a great receiver in the NFL, by the way. I just want to make sure I point that out. He would have been an incredible receiver. He would have been incredible, but he also had the mindset for it with the prima donna.
So the thing with Miami is there is not nearly enough shooting on that team.
No. But you got a top 5 player that you get an opportunity to play with.
Doesn't matter. There's not enough.
Mark my words. If Denver wasn't in the repeater tax at 275, he would have been playing with Giannis or with Jokic. It would have been a consideration.
I don't think so. Here's the thing. There's certain things in LeBron's game that he can still do. He can be a top 10 player for about 5 minutes a half. You need a bunch of young legs, and he needs to be able to play 60 games, only 60 games a season.
Well, he has to facilitate. He's a facilitator at this point. He is not a scorer.
I think Philly made the most sense from a basketball perspective. You go
After
to
got Jaylen Brown, yeah.
Yes. Before Jaylen Brown,
but before that, when he said he was leaving LA, I do think Miami was where he was going. He knows because he said it. He's been nostalgic in a lot of ways about his time with Eric Spoelstra and how great of a coach Eric Spoelstra is and how there's no coach like him and how he can spoke and coach guys up to do great things. And again, a top 5 player, dude. Once they got Giannis, I think in that window between them getting Giannis and that window between Philly getting Jaylen Brown, I don't think Philly was in the conversation.
Listen, I agree with you. I'm not saying that I think Philly was in the conversation before Jaylen Brown.
Right.
But you take, so yes, is Giannis, you said it yourself. There's 2 ways to win a title. Top 5 player or overwhelming talent. And the 76ers, with the caveat of health, which is a huge caveat, have overwhelming talent.
They do have overwhelming talent, but here's what I'm going to say about that. There's a couple of things that, because I'm not handing them the title. Well, they're going to have to earn it. They're going to have to earn it like anybody else. You know what I mean?
I think
and honestly, I think by the time the NBA season starts, Steph Curry's going to be a point guard on a different team. And if he is, we're going to see what happens. You know what I mean? And we'll talk about that in a minute. But here's what I got to say about the 76ers. They are talented. Do not get me wrong. Do not mistake me. Edgecombe is going to be an elite defender in the league. He's going to be a year in, year out all-star as time goes. He will. Like, if he stays healthy and all things the same, he's going to be incredible. Maxey had a couple of down years when Harden was gone because Maxey plays best off ball. He had his best years and his best shooting splits when he wasn't the primary ball handler. Okay, so that helps. Jaylen Brown, though, here's the thing with Jaylen Brown that we know all too well, dude, and I'm not trying to, like, bash Brown because I've got nothing but respect for him and his game and everything else. But Jaylen Brown was a net negative for the season. And the plus minus, he was. It's such a. I know.
That is such of all of the advanced metrics. That is the most cherry picked one.
But it's also the one that tends to prove the most true. And the problem with Jaylen Brown in the math, it does in the stats, the way the stats show per the 36 per, it does show like when they're like that, they don't usually win. Okay, like it's like it has a direct impact on winning. Here's the thing. So Tatum comes back. Jaylen had his best year, right? Had his best year he's ever had. Played amazing. Said it was so much fun being the guy, and he liked the opportunity to show he could do it. Okay? So Jaylen's mindset's already in, I'm the man.
You're making a lot of assumptions.
Well, come on, man. These are things that he said.
Yeah, but
these are things that he said. It's not an assumption.
The situation, it's changed.
I hear you. But regardless, here's what I will say. I will say this. I think that Jaylen Brown is best with the ball in his hand. He is. He proved it to us last year. We know that. We've seen it. He's a creator. He can get to the rim. He can do a lot of things. How can Jaylen Brown have the ball in his hands if you got other guys that have to have the ball in their hand all the time in order to be great? LeBron's going to have to play off ball. This team...
No, they've already said LeBron is going to...
No, LeBron's going to have to play on ball. No, he's going to be the primary ball handler, which means I meant to say Jaylen's going to be off ball, which is not his strong suit. He tends to watch. And now, some of that might be Joe Mazzulla, maybe Nick Nurse. Only two things that are going to make this work. Everything else aside. KCP doesn't excite me. Dude's over the hill. Whatever. Dean Wade being a three-point shooter, amazing for them, right? Like, he'll be a great three-point shooter.
Great defender. I'm more interested
Dean Wade's going to be good that way. He's a D3, you know what I mean? And he's going to be
switchable. He's a switchable defender.
Anthony Simons is going to be good for them.
Anthony Simons is going to be fantastic for them too. Yeah.
But the two things that lead to winning for them are the two things that they're going to have to figure out, and they're the two things that we just don't know. One, can Nick Nurse coach a team with this much talent? Can he put this team in the best situation to win? I'm sorry, when that Raptors team won, dude, they had Kawhi Leonard at his prime, and nobody could stop Kawhi. You know what I mean? Like, it was just a time, and Kyle Lowry was great. They didn't have... They knew their roles. They had two big guys, and then they had guys that fit in around them, right? So that's number one, is can Nick Nurse coach that team the way that they need to be coached in order to put them in a position to win? I'm not sure. Well, nobody knows. Verdict's out. We'll find out. Second thing, and the most important thing, they might have two 41-year-olds on their team. Because Joel Embiid could be 35 or 32 or whatever he is, but his knees are 41. They are.
That's kind of fair. All
okay.
Right.
And so my point is that team is going to go as far as Joel Embiid goes. Yes, they're going to have to sustain when it comes to the playoffs. So they can get through the regular season. They're probably going to win 60 games in the regular season.
I think they're going to win 60 games with LeBron playing 60 and Embiid hitting maybe 50.
Well,
and I think they'll win 60 games.
Well, I think they could win.
They've got talent, they've got depth.
I think this team could win 60 games, and Embiid only play 20, to be honest with you. Because they've got some bigs on the bench. And, if LeBron plays and Jaylen Brown plays, I think Tyrese Maxey and Edgecombe, Maxey, and Brown, minus LeBron, with the role players they have, could probably win close to 60 games. Brown just did it with a different supporting cast in Boston. So, Embiid is what's going to put them over the top in the playoffs. We saw it against us. We saw when he had his bad game, they lost. When he had his good game and he was getting to his spots and he was doing his thing, he was hitting those turnaround jumpers, he was active defensively. So I think during the regular season, they'll have no problem sustaining if Embiid has to sit out. I don't think they'll have a problem if LeBron has to sit out. I think the true things that they have to figure out are, can Nick Nurse coach him and put him in the best positions? And can Joel Embiid be healthy? I think those are the two big things. And then, listen, man, there's one rock and, 10 hands.
So I will say this. I think the my hope, at least, for Jaylen Brown is that it's a different situation. And, again, we've said this a million times, and I think it gets said in sports all the time. Winning cures everything.
No, 100%. They could win 75 games and end up being the greatest team in history with the talent they have. I'm not saying that they're not a good team. I'm just saying that anybody who's like, oh, they're the best team. Well,
no, I mean, you can't say that. You haven't seen them on the court.
You still got the Thunder.
OKC,
you still got the
Spurs. Yep.
And I said, Curry's going somewhere. My prediction, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But
my thought on it is this, and we've talked about this with that 24 Celtics team, that they probably won a title in spite of coaching.
100%. They won a title because Kristaps Porzingis was the best player on the floor.
That was overwhelming talent. They were just by and far and away the most talent.
They need Embiid to be their Porzingis. That's what they need.
And so I think that even as long as there isn't major locker room issues, I think they have enough talent that they, listen, the Knicks are a really complete team. Could this team beat them? I fully believe that they could. I'm not saying they're going to sweep
The Knicks
them
have some issues too, though. They lost a couple of people in the offseason that, you know what I mean?
I think the Dean Wade was a great pickup for them. I think he was a really good pickup for them. I think Anthony Simons, you've got your off the bench, just spark plug guy.
Yep.
They've got all of the things covered. I think they could probably use another big.
If I'm being honest with you, I was kind of thinking that they needed to go get Klay Thompson. Like, not trying to be weird, but like 6'7" defense.
They're trying to get. They're trying. Miami's going hard after Klay Thompson, trying to figure out how they can.
Well, that's because they think Steph's going to wind up there, but we'll talk about that.
We'll see.
But so here's what I'm going to say though, too, man. And it's not like I hear you on their bench, I hear you on their talent, I hear you on their depth, I hear you on all of it. I just genuinely believe that at some point, something like that locker room thing you were talking about. The friction in the locker room, if there's any friction. Well, here's the thing. We didn't think there was friction in Boston. Didn't feel like there was friction in Boston. But now all of a sudden you're hearing how everybody was worn out on Jaylen Brown being the smartest guy in the room and basically telling everybody about it. You know what I mean? And so if he goes into this situation...
I have not heard that come out of, other than...
Tatum basically said it.
But that, again, does Jason Tatum speak for every player in that locker room?
No, I don't think so. And I think some of what's going to happen is I think you're going to... But we do know that Jaylen is brilliant. We know he's incredibly smart. He's coached at taught at MIT, been a fellow, done all kinds of different things, right? Mm-hmm. I'm just saying that if he goes into a situation where LeBron's personality is going to far, like you're talking a grain of salt is Jason Tatum's personality. LeBron James is the size of Mount Everest. And the circle that comes with him. So a lot of this, honestly, is going to be also how LeBron leads. If he's truly going to take a back seat, if he's truly gonna get out of his own way with the media, if he's gonna prop up the other guys, if he started to do it with Luka. I just hope that, but they weren't playing for a title, and so now they have a shot.
But LeBron has again, if there's a guy I could see. Even if you make the assumption that Jaylen Brown...
Well, he's always been passed first, so I think he's going to pass the ball.
I could just, you could also look at it, this is a guy who probably can understand when he's got an opportunity to pick the brain of one, regardless of whether you think he's a GOAT. We obviously don't. But there's zero doubt
he's one of the top 10 players of all time.
I would put him top 5, but I'm I guess a little higher on him than you are. I
No,
would
no,
say
no.
he's the
It's not
fifth.
that. It's not that. I'm just saying that to me, there's a group of players past Michael Jordan that you can't
It's
rank.
hard
Like
to, it
Michael
is hard to
Jordan's number
gauge.
one, and then
Yeah,
there's probably 15 guys that could be in the top 10, if that makes
yeah.
sense.
But
So
regardless, he is one of the greatest players that's ever touched a basketball. Hopefully, hopefully he's passing down that knowledge to these young guys. I'm, I think I'm
he's
less
also a
worried
guy
about
that
the
went on the barbershop and said that he was the greatest player of all time because he delivered a championship to Cleveland. So some of this,
nonsense.
and guess what?
But
He wasn't a young player when he said that. You know how old he was when he said that?
mm,
Like 32.
well, here's what I'll say. I don't think that there's going to be a lack of touches because I don't think they're going to get a ton of. There's going to be one of those two, Embiid or James, is going to be missing a lot of the season. I think you're not going to see it. You're definitely not seeing Embiid in back-to-backs. That's never going to happen.
I don't even know if
I
you'll
think
see LeBron in back to
I don't.
backs.
I was just about to say that, and I don't know if you'll see LeBron in back-to-backs. And you've got, uh,
And I
you
wouldn't
know,
be surprised if Philly puts him on some kind of weird minute restriction where he can't play more than 25 minutes a night.
yeah, I don't think. He's maybe we'll see. Like I say, I think my point to this really more so than anything else was that it's an interesting story.
No, it
I think
is.
it's a
It's
much more
interesting.
interesting story than him going to Cleveland because I don't think it would have been enough to put them over the top. I think if he went to Miami, the lack of shooting, I think, unless through some miracle Miami manages to get Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, and even then, Klay can play defense. Steph is a willing defender, but he's not particularly effective. Even though
Right.
I'm not taking anything away from him. Guy puts in the effort. I would rather see somebody put in the effort and just not be that good at it than somebody be not good at it because they're not willing to
He'll at
put in the
least
work.
stay in front of you so somebody else can come.
Um, but I think Philly has fixed a lot of holes. I think one of the things that
They
killed
really
them
did.
one of the
They
things that
really
killed
did.
them against New York is the complete lack of wing defense.
The other thing with the Knicks that I wanted to say, because you were talking about them being like a
Mm.
potential, could Philly beat them? I don't feel like they were the best team in the league to begin with last year. I think they won with a lot of teams kind of out of the way. I mean, they won a championship.
Just
No,
say they won a title.
but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Sometimes
I do. Yeah,
it's
I
like
get what you're saying.
it's like when they won in the bubble, dude. It's kind of like one of those things where everybody like everything's set up perfect, is what I'm
Yeah,
saying. And
that's a bold statement, man. That's
and
all.
here's something that we both know, and I think that this is probably more true, and it'll hurt the Knicks more than it'll help them going forward. One,
Hmm.
we took Mitchell Robinson. Mitchell
Yep.
Robinson was a big piece off
Sure.
of their rotation. We
Hmm.
took that. Okay, so that's gonna hurt them right there because Cat having to pick up that rebounding slack leads to injuries because Cat is not a relatively healthy guy when he bangs on the block. He's not, just not. Okay, so there's that. That's the first thing. Second thing, Mike Brown. Mike Brown has never been regarded. He's always been regarded as kind of that guy who gets you close but doesn't really put you over the top. I
Hmm.
think, much like you just said, the whole thing about winning in spite of the coach with Joe Mazzulla, I
Hmm.
kind of think the Knicks won in spite of Mike Brown. I do. I genuinely believe that. The other thing too is who was their coach for 4 years before Mike Brown?
Yeah, but what does Tom have to do with anything?
Because he kills players, and those guys are getting to an age where you saw Joakim Noah break down it eventually.
Mm.
You saw Luol Deng break down. You saw Derek. I'm just saying that he is a guy that ran six man rotation in the playoffs and burn out these guys. So longevity wise, and as good as Jalen Brunson is, he's also still a small guard,
Hmm.
banging in the middle, getting hurt. I'm just saying, dude. At some point, I think they're gonna be in trouble in some ways that nobody's really talking about. Not from a talent perspective, but from a coaching or lack of coaching. All
Hmm.
right. So anyway, LeBron, we'll see how that plays out, dude. I've got my suspicions that it's not gonna go the greatest. I also think that Jalen. Here's the thing with Jalen too. You got to be thinking about mindset. Okay. Here's a guy and maybe I'm wrong, but here's a guy that's owed $72 million a year in his next extension. Okay.
Hmm.
Guess what? He said he had his most fun playing when he was the guy. Okay? Best season. So there's that. Then he goes to Philly, which might have changed his mindset with LeBron and the way this team's being built and everything else. Could possibly change his mindset. But here's the thing. He still hasn't inked that $72 million a year extension because Philly's not going to sign him to it because they got to pay Maxey and they got to pay Edgecombe when these contracts are up. That's part of this whole thing, right? Like, that's part of this whole thing is that the timing of it all and being able to pay their future, quote unquote. Okay? That puts Jalen at 32 playing out this contract. Jalen wants the opportunity to solidify himself as the man. I'm just saying, man, at some point, that might be a problem.
I look at it more this way. This is an opportunity for him, another opportunity for him to shut some people up.
But
If
does he
they
want to be
go,
32 and go to a different team and have to be
he
the man
may,
there? Or, I don't know,
he
dude.
may. We'll see. Like I say, I think at that kind
There's
of money,
just as many question marks as there is talent.
and
That's all.
that I will agree with you on. I think there is a lot of question marks, but I think this is a team again. It's less that I think that they're just destined for greatness. It's more that I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
It's going to be an
Well, we needed a
interesting team to
storyline. There
watch.
hadn't been a storyline. And I got to
There
tell you,
hasn't
dude,
been a storyline.
there will never be anybody that roots harder for Jaylen Brown to win and LeBron James to lose. So I don't know how that works, but
Like I say, I
I'm
think
not rooting for Philly, just so we
yeah,
clear that up.
if they come up against Boston, obviously I'm going to be rooting for Boston. There's no way for me not to. But if they don't, I just kind of want to see how this plays out, man. I just think it could be a really interesting story. And I think
It could
that's
be.
the part that the NBA is missing is as a league is that it's the stories that make the sport interesting. It's not
Well,
just the just the
to
winning
the
or the losing.
WNBA's credit, they understand the stories because that's what keeps them relevant is all these stories right now. You know what I mean? So it's the only thing keeping them relevant. All right, I'm gonna make a prediction and then we're gonna get off sports because there's a lot of things to talk about.
All right.
I don't think that Steph Curry will suit up for the Golden State Warriors this year.
So you think before the season starts,
I think he's going to be
trade?
traded. I think what's going to happen is they're going to find a partner in a salary dump kind of move.
Okay.
They will move him. There will be a buyout, and Steph will choose where he wants to play. I do. I genuinely do. And here's why I believe that for a couple of reasons. One, Steph Curry's a Golden State franchise, dude. I mean, he single-handedly is by far and away their greatest player of all time.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
yeah, okay. But you know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, okay.
You're leaving a very tall man out.
I know, but you know what I mean when I'm saying this.
Yeah.
And like in the modern NBA, he is the greatest player they've had.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's pretty easy to say.
Yeah. Okay. He is why they won championships, just as much as Clay and Dre, but he is a key piece of why. He's 38. Okay. They are $304 million in tax bill because they are over the second apron in the repeater tax on a roster that is not going to win a championship.
Not going to win a championship. I don't. They're
not even close. I mean, well, and Jimmy's not even going to play until probably after the All-Star break. It sounds like. So you got that as well, right? So you've got no flexibility. You can't go get anybody.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So I think that Golden State appreciates Steph enough to say we're going to try to find a way to let you go play and go play at a high level and compete. I do. I honestly think, and it might be a pipe dream and it might be crazy, I think that there's like probably 3 teams that are at the top of his list when he does it. Yeah. No, I'm serious. Okay. I think one of them is San Antonio. I think that's got to be, I mean, dude, the idea of playing with the biggest guy on the court has got to be there, right? Like, so I think San Antonio makes sense, and I think Curry could put San Antonio well over the top. Although I think Tobias Harris makes.
I don't think San Antonio makes a lot of sense because what do you do with Fox?
You trade him. And they're going to do that anyway. Darren Harper has made Fox Darren Harper is going to take
that's a good.
you know
You'll
what?
take Fox's, but yeah,
Not Derek Harper, Dylan Harper.
Dylan
He's
Harper.
overtaken. I
But
mean,
regardless,
yeah, you know what I'm saying. I think the second team, I do think the Boston Celtics are in that mix. Steph likes legacy. Steph likes like the idea of being on a team that competes. Him and Jason Tatum, I they're going to be
okay,
involved in it. They're going to be involved.
all right,
And then the third
sure.
team, and it's going to sound kind of crazy when I say this,
Mm-hmm.
they're not that competitive, but they could be with Steph on the team, and they just kind of traded their big point guard, and he's
Well,
from
he's
there,
already said that he would be that like one of the only teams he'd be willing to play for would be the Hornets. So,
and he's from there.
and
I mean,
yeah,
so I think that he's going to go. I do, and I think so much so. So much was given to that when Draymond signed a 1-year, $27.7 million deal. Like it
mhm.
just kind of tells you we're phoning it in, man. There's nothing we can do. And they're at a crossroads as an organization. They need picks. So they're gonna find some crappy team in a salary dump move that's gonna turn around and buy him out, kind of like what happened with Westbrook and the Jazz.
Mhm.
And he's just gonna go play basketball somewhere. You know, I genuinely believe that. Another team that I could see him going to, so he couldn't get Durant to the Warriors, but maybe Durant gets him to the Rockets. They're buddies. They like each other. I'm just saying, man. I think Steph's looking for
I
a way to
think that
compete at this
I
level,
think
or even
Miami is a
Jokic.
much. I think
Miami
Miami
makes
is a much
sense.
more
Uh-huh.
makes much more sense, at least
Well,
in
it's a top 5
basketball.
player again. They have a top 5 player. I mean,
But for Steph, considering the needs that Miami has and where that Steph would want to compete, but boy, hasn't the landscape changed?
oh, it really has. The East has gotten crazy.
The East has
I saw
gotten a
this,
lot,
dude.
much better.
I got to pull this up. I think I sent it to you. Bear with me a second, okay? But it's did you see that thing where the guy's breaking down what Sam Presti just did to the league?
Hmm.
So he got Denver to go back into the repeater tax by offering a deal to Spencer Jones that they knew they were going to make a sheet that they were going to match the offer because he's restricted. So
Hmm.
Denver's at $295 million in that. He drove up the price of or he traded Lou Dort.
Hmm.
He traded a bunch of guys to the East to make the East more relevant because the East, you know who owns the Clippers pick that they have? Atlanta.
Hmm.
So it's like there's just some. I will say this: Sam Presti's the best GM in basketball. It's not even close. Um.
So let me
Anyway,
ask you this before we get off of sports. I just want to pick your brain about the one last thing, one quick NBA thing.
okay.
Um, the Blazers. Are the Blazers going to be in Portland in a year or so?
Uh, I think they might just be in Seattle.
But it sounds like that doesn't do anything for the rest of the league. The league wants to expand. There's going to be a buy-in of $7 billion per team. Why would they? Why would the league has already said they're not going to let anybody move?
I
I,
honestly also could see them winding up in Virginia, dude. Like Virginia Beach has been talking for years about and trying to get it, and they've got the land for it. And it was an NBA team that they were trying to get before. I believe it was the Timberwolves when
I
Minnesota
mean,
was thinking about moving.
it would work for the league
Yeah,
just because yeah, you're losing the Blazers to the others, so you're moving them to the
but
East,
you're bringing
but
Seattle a team when
but
you.
you're bringing a Seattle team in. And it would mean instead of having to move one team, if both teams are in the Western Conference, having to move two teams, you've got from the west to east, you only
Yeah,
got to do it with one. That would make pretty good sense. If that's actually what happens, we
yeah.
will
I
see.
don't know. It'll be interesting. But
But this
before we
Tom
switch
John guy
sports,
is
before we
he's up to
switch
something.
before we get off of sports, but we're gonna move away from the NBA. I just want to say, man, greatest day in sports happened earlier this week. Patriots reported to training camp. We got Drake May. We got Drake May back under center. His guns are huge. He added a bunch of muscle in the offseason to be able to take those hits. We've got
Hmm.
AJ Brown there catching some deep balls and figuring it out. I don't know, man. It is going to be interesting. We went from the third easiest schedule in the modern NFL to the third hardest schedule in the modern NFL this year. So we will figure it out quickly. But I mean, it's going to be just like every other Patriots team we watched. Just build as the season goes. So I'm excited. I had a guy tell me that he thinks we're going to go 10-7 this year. I told him he was full of it. I think we'll probably win 12 games, but you know, and we only because of our approach on a week to week basis and not like a season long. Anyway, but yeah, so that's my take. Also, we'll shout out my Red Sox. They are 21-3 in their last 24 games.
Who saw that coming?
Nobody,
No one.
nobody. And
Not
here's
a
the
soul.
well, and now we're the number 2 spot in the wild card. Okay,
Mhm.
we're only a game and a half behind the Yankees for that first spot in the wild card. We are about to find out if that venture capitalist comes through that we think that John Henry is, because he's got all the pitching to go deep, all of it. He needs a bat. Is he gonna go get the bat? I will tell you, we got some bad luck, dude. We traded one of our young pitchers this week to for a guy named well, I can't remember his name. Mead. His last name's Mead. I think it's Curtis Mead. Um, very first at bat. And this guy's not an everyday player. Has 17 home runs on the year, batting 265, like 35 RBIs. So perfect for what we need, just utility wise. And play him a little more. His very first at bat, he gets hit by a pitch on his wrist and breaks his bone. After the trade.
What are you gonna do? Uh,
So, I do gotta ask you, have you paid attention to our TikTok, man? Have you went out and looked at it? I've been called a lot of things that I've been called. The big one that I'm struggling with is that someone actually said that I was a terrorist because I merely suggested in a video that if the Iranian people don't start helping themselves out, that the rest of the people that are bombing them, not just the US and Israel, but all of their neighbors that are pointing everything at them,
mhm.
are going to make it impossible to rebuild, because unfortunately
Mhm.
it is eventually going to hit civilian infrastructure that you don't want to hit, bridges and energy. But apparently I'm a terrorist because I said that I want to blow up bridges, which is not what I said in any stretch. I was encouraging the Iranian people to try to help themselves to avoid that. There's some bad dudes over there, man, hanging people and pointing guns at people and telling them to show up
Well,
to the Ayatollah's funeral. And
so you and I have kind of we're adjacent to each other. I wouldn't say we have opposite views on the whole Iran thing. I think that we probably painted ourselves into a corner a little bit, because can't you can't just leave it how it is, because if you do, they're gonna try and hold the entire area, at least in terms of shipping, hostage. So you kind of can't let that fly. The IRGC is filled with crazy people. I think I won't say we, but Israel kind of did a disservice by taking out everybody with any real power in that country. And so now we've got this military pariah state who's just lashing out at everybody around them. And I don't see a scenario where this finishes without us putting boot.
that I agree with. I do agree with you on that. It's unfortunate I don't want to, but I don't think it's going to be. I genuinely believe it's not going to be our boots on the ground. I think that there will be boots on the ground. And I tend to agree with you when you talk about like painting ourselves into a corner to an extent. But here's the thing. When we went into Afghanistan, nobody was standing up to help us around them. When we went into Iraq, nobody was standing up around them, their neighbors, to help
Sure.
us.
Hmm.
Syria, when we were bombing Syria because of Bashar al-Assad and trying to help out the Syrian people escape the multitude of nerve gas that they kept having dropped on them and all that, the mustard gas and everything, you know, nobody helped except for the Brits. Okay, the Brits helped, but none of the Middle Eastern neighbors helped.
Hmm.
There is such a divide in the Middle East right now over Iran. And it's not a divide of like, oh, we think Iran should be this, we're going to support them, and the US needs to go. It's a divide of you're the problem. You're
Hmm.
bombing everybody. You're the reason why the Americans are even here to begin with, because you keep propping up terrorist groups, the Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah, You keep propping up these groups, and you keep disrupting and causing tensions. Whereas we're trying to make money, and we're trying to grow our economies and prosper our countries and everything else. You're the problem. There has never been. I look at it like a political cartoon I saw years back with Trump standing in the middle of the street, and it was all these media microphones just kind of pointed from all over the different media outlets like missiles right at Trump. And I got to tell you, the Middle East is pointing missiles at the Iranian people. And the reason why there's restraint right now from bombing the shit out of them from Oman and Bahrain and all these people is because they don't want to kill the Iranian people. They want to remove the cancer, the IRGC. They want to get rid of these people that are state sponsors of terrorism. They want to stop the wars. And I think they're really trying to do that, dude. And I think these Abraham Accords, Saudi Arabia is getting ready to join the Abraham Accords. I think that the boots on the ground, the Saudis just bombed the shit out of the Houthis. I don't know if you saw that. They bombed the ever-loved shit out of them.
Well, they've been fighting the Houthis for a long time.
Yeah, but they escalated that on the Red Sea pretty hard when the Houthis launched that. So anyway, but they knew it came from Iran. So I'm just saying, I agree with you. I think Israel might be on the ground, maybe. But I tend to think the other thing is too is you got the Middle East actually working with Israel to stop the problem, which is kind of crazy, right? Like that's not happened in our lifetime.
No, I don't see a scenario where U.S. boots don't end up in.
I think we might end up on like Karg Island.
So here's the problem is that you've got massive amounts of infrastructure that was designed to build missiles. And you've got the IRGC who has just taken power. We know when you give somebody power, trying to take it back is near on impossible. That's why you've got to be very careful who you give power to. Part of me thinks that so if I have a complaint about Trump, it is a lack of understanding how different culturally that they are, because they're not necessarily, if this was a Western country, you could make these kinds of.
But let me ask you a question. Does he really not understand it? I mean, think about it. He built hotels. He's the first U.S. president to try to work with these countries in the way that he has to make money, and he's the first one. Like the Abraham Accords came from him. All this stuff has happened.
What I'm saying is that he doesn't understand, because if he did, he would have realized that they're not interested. They've been poor for how long?
Yeah,
they've been poor for how long? That's not gonna, and yet they have kept doing the same that they've been doing. So the reality is that they're less concerned about how much, at least in terms of their government, is less concerned about how much money is in their pocket, and more concerned, they don't care what the lives are of their people. They want to hold on to power.
That's fair, but I also think
it's tough to negotiate with that.
Well, one thing about Trump that I think is interesting is that his friendships in the Middle East from before he was president are really helping him navigate the relationships with these Middle Eastern leaders. I mean, they really are. I mean, you look at like Saudi Arabia, you look at Oman, or the Qatar, and you look at the UAE and Jordan. Most of them have business dealings with Trump from when he was.
I'm not saying that his connections with these, admittedly, 4 countries in the Middle East are very westernized, if you want to call it that. I'm not saying that that's not helpful. What I am saying is that
you're saying it's difficult to negotiate with someone like them, and I get that.
The Saudis' motivation is and the Omanis and the Qataris, their motivations. Jordan, incredibly, moderate country for that area. Their motivations are just straight up different than Iran. They just are. And
And I hear you, but I genuinely think that we are not in as bad a shape in it as it's getting portrayed, because I do think that, like, this deal to stand up Gaza, this thing that they're meeting on in Egypt, right? Like, I forget what they call it, but the Gaza plan or whatever. It's gonna be the same plan with Iran. They're if the U.S. is smart, which I think that they are, or that we are, and I think they're gonna do this. I think when they go into these meetings with these Middle Eastern countries that are gonna help prop up Gaza, they're gonna say, "All right, we need your help with Iran." And I think it's been said, but I think they're gonna come up with a plan for Iran. I think, I think you could see multiple countries go into Iran. I don't think it's gonna
Maybe,
be just the US. And I
maybe,
don't
but you've
think that
also got to
maybe we
remember
even
that
go in.
again, you got to remember too that even culturally, they're different. Iran, while they're a Muslim nation, they aren't Arab. They're
No, they're
Persian.
Persian. Yeah, I know.
And so it's like this isn't. It's more complicated, I think, than we like to give it credit. You know,
It is.
the
But you
Saudis.
can't do nothing either. You couldn't do nothing.
I'm not saying that you can. That I'm not saying that. What I
47 years of nothing got us here.
Well, what I'm saying is that again, I think Trump's shame on fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I think his willingness, his over desire to negotiate, I
Yeah.
think has painted us in a corner.
I do agree with that. But I also think at the same time, we need to bomb the shit out of Pickaxe Mountain. I do. I think we need to start dropping some Moabs on Pickaxe Mountain. I do. I mean, that's
I
where they're
think
doing that stuff. That's where, I think there's probably a lot of the IRGC leadership is probably in Pickaxe Mountain. That's what a lot of people think.
so. Here's the problem that I see. I think bombing the IRGC leadership, you take one out, and then there's just going to be another one waiting to take over. I don't think that's going to be that. I don't think will solve your problem. I think taking Karg Island at that point, what are you, what, where, how, in what way do you negotiate? If that's your desire, if your desire is like, hey, listen, we're gonna take the one thing you've got left. You know, I think that the only thing that the IRGC really cares about is they've now taken over that country. They are now the ruling party, I guess you could say, and they're not going to want to give up that ability. I don't think that there's any scenario where this plays out that you don't have to force them into a unconditional surrender, and I don't think you cannot do that with airstrikes. You just
No,
can't.
you can't. No, I know.
And I
But
don't
I
think the
mean,
Saudis are going to be. I think this. Listen, I think that the Saudis and the Omanis and the Qataris, they're all going to be very willing to lend a hand. I don't think that's going to be the issue. I think the issue is going to be that they're probably not going to be super willing to put boots on the ground. And let's be honest here. If we're really honest, these are technologically advanced countries. They have air forces and air defenses and all the toys. There's a big difference between that and putting boots on the ground. I I
can
just
you hear that?
yes, but that's okay. I can do something about
You
it
can
with
get
my
okay.
son. Yeah,
Sorry.
but I think that's where this eventually leads. And I personally would have rather gone in with just complete unrelenting force from the very beginning.
Oh yeah.
And you can call me
No, I get
saying
that. No, I get
Monday
that.
morning quarterbacking, but
Yeah.
I
No, I
just
get that.
at no point did I feel like, oh yeah, no, we figured a deal out. No, yeah, I just have
Well,
never
I
felt
think
that
part
way.
of what Trump was hoping is because you hear a lot of Iranian people, like, honestly, what we should have done is in January when they were protesting their government, that's when we should have moved.
Well, I would agree with that, but the problem is I think it was one kind of unexpected, and two, it takes time to build up military assets, and if you go in half cocked, that's how you get people killed. And I will give him this, you know, he didn't want to go in half cocked. So I like I say, I just think we're gonna end up with boots on the ground. I'm not excited about the prospect by any means. I would rather that have not been the case. I just don't see how you get out. I don't see a scenario where we get out of this without having to do that. And then you'll get people who will go, in my opinion, they'll go, oh, well, we'll just back right off. Well, you've now completely just permanently and completely disrupted global shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. Because now
I'm
if
also
you back
not
off
so
now,
sure that we weren't planning that all along. I'm not
I,
so sure that the bigger
I
plan
don't,
was to get it out of the Strait of Hormuz. Because here's the
I
thing, dude.
do. I don't think that, I don't think there's 4D chess being played here, man. I really don't.
I genuinely believe that, and I think it started with Venezuela. That's where you and I disagree. I think that Trump wants to have the U.S. making money off of oil and be one of and have the hands in all the oil. There are active pipeline routes that are being built or actively being built to bypass the Strait of Hormuz. I think a lot of this is Trump, and not just Trump. I think a lot of people understand the Saudis, the Kuwaitis, like all these countries in the Middle East. I think they understand that with Iran controlling the shipping routes, this can happen anytime. You know,
You're not wrong.
and I think
That
that
is
they're
true.
looking for alternatives, and I think that they've been working on those alternatives.
The
And I
problem
think
is that you have the same issue in the in the Red Sea
you
on
do,
as well with the
but
Houthis.
guess who has just as much oil as Venezuela or as Iran, and we're pulling a ton of it out of there.
Yeah, again, like I can't look at this at a 30,000 foot view and go that this is just like the greatest 4D chess move of all time. Like I don't think that's what this is. I think one,
I
you're
see
really
why you
hurting
wouldn't
your
think that.
well, but one, you're really hurting you would really be hurting your Middle Eastern partners, which I don't think Trump wants to do, for one.
So sure about that. I don't think it hurts them. They've got plenty of oil in their own countries
Well, I
without
agree.
Iran.
Well, no, but that's not what I'm saying. So if your thought is that Trump is playing 4D chess, and his whole plan all along was for us to be using Venezuelan oil to ship out to the world and supplant the Middle East as the global oil reserve, that is hurting
I don't
your
think it was the
friendly
Middle
nation.
East. I think it was China. Or it was Iran. It was China. It was North Korea. It was Russia. You can't stop the Russian war. It hasn't happened. You're not going to stop it. But what you can do is you can cut off Russia's oil supply, make it hard for them to get fuel. You can,
Well, yeah, but Russia's one of the largest oil producers in the world. We're
yeah,
not
but
cutting off oil's
no, but
Russia's oil.
Venezuela or Ukraine has been bombing the Russian oil fields to the
Well,
point that. So what I'm saying is, I think this is more of a let's let's put these countries off the board. Let's make them have to be reliant on us so that they have to come to the negotiation table. And I think that it's more of that. And by having Venezuela, see, part of the problem we have, and in all honesty, is that there's a one pay system for oil, and there shouldn't be. There shouldn't be. If we are here in the U.S. and we have our refineries turned on and we are refining oil, which we don't have enough refineries in the U.S. That's why it's so important to get Venezuela up and running. You know, but if we're doing that, we are able to control our own pricing in America without a world supply because we have our own supply. And so
but
I do
then
think,
now you're getting into like quasi communist socialist type of deal because oil is traded as a commodity. So you're paying the prices of what oil costs on the global market to
right.
replace.
I know.
So I don't know if that's the right, I don't necessarily think that's the right move either.
I
You
think
know,
different countries just like buying anything else. If you import something from China, there's a price that's paid for the import. You know, if we're exporting and importing, depending on where you are, if you're in Nicaragua and you're getting oil from Venezuela, it should be cheaper because it didn't have to go as far. I think that that's a lot of, I think
yeah,
rather than one global price where it's like, oh, hey, something's going on in the Strait of Hormuz, but we got more gas than we've ever had, and we've got enough to last many, many years here in the
but again,
U.S.
that again isn't free market capitalism. Free market capitalism says that yes, we are competing for our own oil with
Yep.
other countries who also need oil.
No, we should compete with them. But that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that if we have oil here in the US and
Hmm.
other countries need oil, and there are bad actors that if you can damage the fact that they are getting oil by taking it off the board with China and Russia and kind of pulling, I mean, it's the crank, dude. You take Iran out of the middle, you're hurting them. You know what I mean?
But my point is that okay, we need oil, and so does Germany, right? So if right, so are you? If the Europeans are like, well, we need oil, and this is how much we're willing to pay for it. This is what that if that's how commodities work, it's a commodity.
Yeah.
So you can't like I like I say, I don't
Or
know,
here's an
man.
idea.
I
Here's
just think we're gonna end up with boots on the ground in
I don't
Iran.
know,
I think
man.
it's just I think it's just what's coming.
I think we're trying to show those restraint as much as we can to not
Mm.
do it. And I think
Oh, I
that
agree. I don't think we're gung ho
and
about it. I just
and
think
I
we're gonna be
don't
forced into it eventually.
I'm so sure that we don't just leave at some point and say, "Hey, they don't want to help themselves, we're out." But while that's happening, we're building new oil routes and there's a global reshaping happening of where the oil supplies are coming from. I mean, Venezuela's turned on.
You gotta
Russia, here's the thing with Russia. We have sanctioned Russia so bad and the global economy that it's hard for them to sell their oil to Germany. It's hard for them to do certain things.
yes, but
So, how do you stop wars? You get Russia back to the table and say, "Hey, we'll lift these sanctions. We'll help you sell this oil to Europe."
I think part of the thing with it is that you got to remember Iran wasn't selling oil to Europe. They're selling the majority of their oil went to China.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of it is about China, dude. A lot of it. And you know what's funny? When Xi and Trump met, and of course you won't hear this on the fake news, but if you read Xi's transcripts of his interview after, what you hear is him say, "Yeah, I agreed to buy oil from the United States of America via Venezuela. Now we're going to export to them." I mean, it kind of goes back to something that we said in the very beginning of all this, dude, that we need a sovereign wealth fund. Trump's trying to make us a wealthy nation by blowing up by being the world leader in that stuff, by getting us involved in AI chips, by saying cars if they're manufactured here don't have tariffs, by saying, you know what I mean? Like he's literally he's a businessman to a fault, dude. Is what it comes down to. And I get it. I hear what you're saying. I just maybe we do put boots on the ground. I think we're not gonna have to put boots on the ground by the time it's all said and done. I just don't.
See, man, I got my doubts. I don't know if that's real if that's going to happen. I hope it does. I hope that this gets resolved without doing that, but I
Well, and here's
just
the one thing too.
have a hard time imagining it.
Interest. Trump has no interest in endless wars. He said it over and over.
Again, this is not me saying that he has an interest in endless wars. This
Yeah,
is me saying we are painted into a corner and we're not going to have a choice. If we want this to, because like I say, maybe the Gulf states go, yep, we're gonna build pipelines, and we're gonna move all of our oil through friendly nations to the Red Sea, and that's where we're gonna, and then we'll go through the uh Suez Canal and up into the
yeah,
Med, and that's how we'll distribute oil through to Europe, and it won't really matter what the Houthis do because we're gonna pump our oil through Israel. You
yeah.
know, maybe that happens.
I just
I
have never seen the cooperation that I'm seeing in the Middle East right now, and that's where I think that there is plans. I think coming out of this Egypt meeting on Gaza, I think you're going to see a united plan on Iran. I just maybe I'm
I
wrong,
hope so. Like I say,
but
I really do hope so.
I also think this: Trump stopped 9 wars since he's been in office. And I don't think he started this war.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think he
I
started it. I think he was just ending a problem that had been there for a long time. I don't think that the Iranian conflict's been over for years. And then you've got such soft, weakened leadership in America in these big cities where you're electing people that are terrorist sympathizers in cities where our greatest terrorist attack happened. You know what I mean? It's like I'm just at this point where I think maybe we should have spent the last 25 years pursuing terrorism. like actually trying to take out terrorists, dude, not
No,
pursuing to
I'm
be
like,
terrorists.
what? I was like, wait,
Like,
what? What?
yes. No, but you know what I mean. Like, I think we kind of dropped the ball. Like, and I'm gonna blame Obama on this, and it's wrong probably in some ways because I think other presidents have been guilty of it too. But I think after Bush, I think Obama became the apologist of the United States rather than the guy who was like, "Listen, you bombed our country, man. Like, you literally caused more deaths to Americans, and there are people in the world trying to develop nuclear weapons, screaming death to America."
Listen, I hear you. I don't think I think Iran has shown through their actions through all of this that
They
they're
don't care who they
should
bomb.
not. Yeah, they should not be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. I think that's a terrible idea.
No, they're
Um,
only propping up what he's been trying to say.
so well, my friend, we've been doing this for an hour and 5 minutes, and
Hey, thanks for joining us. You're right, Sterling. It has been a little bit of time, so let's cut out here. Thank y'all. Go like our YouTube, check out the videos, follow us on TikTok and Instagram. Appreciate the love and support. As always, stay tuned.